Welcome back to a new episode of Rare and Weird Stuff That I Own. Well, I wanted to do this video for a very long time, but I wanted to be properly prepared for if I did this video. And the truth is unfortunately, I don't think there's really any way for me to prepare for it. So I was just figuring, let's do it and see how it turns out. Many years ago, there was a man named Jim Shooter. You probably remember him from some of the best Marvel stories ever written. And you also remember that he left Marvel. And he left it under weird conditions. And after leaving Marvel, he tried opening his own company. And then he tried opening up another company. And unfortunately, through various means, things did not happen too well for him. But that's neither here nor there. What did he do after he left Marvel? He opened a series called Defiant Comics. And what Defiant Comics was it was its own independent imprint. Yep, it was its own independent imprint. And there's the logo right there under the sticker. It was its own independent imprint, which was meant to have its own shared continuity of all different types of characters. And one of those series that he had created was a series called Warriors of Plasm. Now, the cool thing about Warriors of Plasm was that it was going to have all these weird characters. It was going to have this weird environment. And then he was going to take, after setting up that environment, he was going to take those characters and put them in Earth. And they would basically, hilarity or hijinks would ensue, basically. Unfortunately, I have no idea about any of that stuff. Information about Warriors of Plasm is actually quite hard to come by. Ever since I remember looking this stuff up, or at least trying to look this stuff up every once in a while over the course of at least since I first got the internet back in the mid-90s. And other than the fact that I could find some loose issues of the Warrior of Plasm comics, I couldn't really find any information about them themselves. And no comic book shops that I've ever seen ever carried back issues of it. The only place I could usually find them is online, and who knows how accurate those listings were. So this is one thing that Jim Shooter came up with. Obviously, if you're going to set up a whole new, continuity of a whole new, essentially, you're basically creating your own competitive MCU, essentially, then you need to go all out to get your product out there so that the general public is aware of your characters. And in order to do that, Defiant released what I call the Comic Collector. Now, what is the Comic Collector? This is kind of turning into more of a history story than a story about getting this, but the Comic Collector is this. At the time when the Plasm comics came out, Plasm number 0 was released. However, it wasn't released in the case of getting a comic book from a comic book store. You couldn't just go to a comic book store and say, I want Plasm 0, and they would sell it to you if they had it in stock. Plasm 0 was actually made up of trading cards, essentially stuff like this. Now, these are just cards themselves, but what they would do is they take a whole page of art, they'd cut it into this grid, essentially, and they'd number them in sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, basically. And if you put them into a grid like this, essentially, you would actually get a double page, a two-page spread, basically, or 2 pages back and front of the issue, of what you were, of an issue of 0. And the incentive was for you as a consumer to get all the whole sequence, basically, so that you could, essentially read it for yourself. The hope was that this was going to draw up a lot of interest in getting, incentive for the series out there. And I think he did this for a couple of other episodes, but the one he was mostly known for was this one. I really don't want to open this too much, but let me see if I can flip it over. So I became very interested in this. Because one Christmas, many, many, many years ago, might have been Christmas 1994, a relative that I, for the life of me, cannot remember, and I don't think I've actually seen since. I think it was one of my mother's extended aunts or uncles or something that I don't know what, and I haven't seen in quite a long time, gave me a gift. And the gift was a wrapped package of the Plasm, of basically these Plasm cards. No comic collector, nothing like that. And they gave my sister a box of these, which were basically foil versions of the character sheets. Now, the Plasm Zero cards were all random assortment. These were not. These were basically just the whole character packs right here. Unfortunately, all these were reprintings of stuff that was already in the one. So there were no rare or legacy cards in here as far as I can tell. And I remember my sister saying, "You take this, I don't want this." Because why would she? And I remember thinking, I was not super duper into comics. Even to this day, I'm really not super duper into comics. But I was thinking, this is kind of an interesting novelty. I'll see if I can assemble this. And I remember getting like a 3-ring binder and stuff like that and basically trying to put them together. And I was able to actually get at least the whole story together. There were some rare foil cards that were included in the number ones. I'm sorry, the number zeros that I did not get. And to this day, I still don't have them. And I heard there was like some really super rare ones as well. But for the most part, that was basically, I was able to at least read the story. And then I remember walking around a flea market about a decade or two later and seeing this. Empty, but intact. This is the Plasm Zero comic collector. As you can see, it's actually marked, stamped, 2nd edition. I think I'd seen one that was marked bronze edition as a 3rd edition. And I've seen ones that aren't stamped. I ended up getting this one stamped because I thought that made it more official. But don't quote me on that. And the guy was literally selling it for like $3.50. No idea where it was. He didn't have any of the other cards. He just had the 2 of these. Where he got them from, I have no idea. I don't even think he knew. But I ended up picking one, and it was complete. And it included basically basically this is the official binder that those cards were supposed to go into. And I already had the cards. So, I don't know, maybe it was fate or something. But I remembered seeing all of this, and I was like, yes, it comes with an exclusive card, which it does. It comes with an exclusive comic in universe. It comes with the binder itself, as well as a note from Jim Shooter that's signed. And also, the only thing it didn't come with was the back cover. You actually had to pay for the back cover, and they only sold the back cover to people that that bought this binder. And again, as for where this stuff was bought, I have no idea. I'm sure if you check this address, there's probably, this is, ironically enough, this is my home state. Actually, this is yeah. I have no idea. I doubt any of this stuff is actually still good. And in fact, even if it is, I'm fairly certain that they will have to only accept original copies of it. So, yeah. If I ever met Jim Shooter, I would try to get him to sign this. As to where, I have no idea. But this, to me, was very interesting novelty. It's a pretty gross story, but I think that was intentional. They were trying to tell an adult story. But yeah, this is among one of the weirdest things I've actually owned. A comic book story that's told in the form of trading cards. Written by Jim Shooter. Who can say they've got that? It's been sitting in a shoebox in my closet for going on about 20 years. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Jim Shooter, if you have the rest of these, please send them to me. I really want them. Until next time, guys, my name is Maniac with GamingSuccess.net. Take care, over and out.